Hello, and thank you for joining us for what I believe will be the most valuable 30-minute webinar you will attend this year, incorporating best practices for accurate CMRT supply chain reporting. What is highly valuable about today's webinar is that the insights and messages provided have been developed by Quantum Corporation, the leading expert in scale-out storage, archive, and data protection, and an SEC filer, not a consultant or a tools provider, but a user managing conflict minerals reporting in the real world. Garry Felker, Quantum's Manager of Environmental Responsibility, recognizes the numerous benefits for Quantum and its suppliers by achieving 100% accuracy in CMRT supply chain management. To meet this objective, he has launched the Quantum Accurate Conflict Minerals Reporting Initiative. Our goal today is to convince you that a focus on accuracy is the correct strategic choice and to become a founding member of the initiative. We're going to start today with Rob Kasameyer. Rob is going to present to us QACMRI, a win-win for Quantum and its suppliers. Now, Rob has taught business courses around the world and most recently at Tufts University, so expect an academic perspective from his presentation. Garry will then provide the whys and hows of best practices for achieving a goal of 100% accuracy and pay special attention when he invites you to join the Accuracy Initiative. And I am John Logan of Green Status Pro. I'll describe best practices for accurate conflict minerals reporting automation to achieve the goals of greater accuracy, faster turnaround times, and cheaper program costs. Now please submit your questions at any time and we will provide our responses after all the presentations. And of course, the presentations will be emailed to you tomorrow. Rob, will you start with your presentation now, please?
Thanks, John. The Quantum Accurate Conflict Minerals Reporting Initiative is a win-win for Quantum and its suppliers. I'm going to begin by talking about the scope of the Conflict Minerals Challenge and the significant role of compliance officers in helping their company manage it. In early 2014, it was all over the news that 68 of the roughly 1,300 companies responding to the SEC's conflict minerals requirements had identified North Korea as a potential source for the gold used in their products. The immediate impact on the company's market value was dramatic. In 10 days, the market capitalization of the two largest companies involved dropped $3.7 billion in actual terms, despite an otherwise rising market for tech stocks, and no other significant announcements involving these companies during this period. So, how did this loss happen? And how could the company's compliance officers have helped their companies get on top of it? Over the course of the previous year, the compliance officers had worked hard gathering and aggregating data, which left them no time for analyzing and interpreting the information, which is their true value added. The companies paid the price. Accuracy is the central challenge. No company wants to pass on false information to their customers or the SEC. Problems with CMRTs must be identified and communicated to suppliers for clarification and correction. Then, the process continues with resubmission, revalidation, and reconsolidation. This gets more difficult with the inherent complexity of supply chains and the quantity of information involved. Analyzing the data sounds straightforward, but supply chains are complex. Most products require multiple supply tiers where customers can also be suppliers and can utilize contract manufacturers, distributors, metal exchanges, and traders, which lessens transparency. Customers working through contract manufacturers or distributors may not know who their suppliers are, and vice versa, for instance. Similarly, particular smelter facilities may be owned by companies that do not differentiate their products nor operations by facility. The challenges don't stop there. 100 suppliers can translate to thousands of smelters and tens of thousands of data inputs on their conflict minerals report templates. Further, smelters themselves are a moving target. The number of unique smelters is uncertain at this point. Conflict-Free Smelter Initiative, or CFSI, recognized 217 in version 3.01 of their CMRT. A few months later, their next version, 3.02, identified 279, or 62 more. That represents a 28% increase. At the same time, several were removed, minerals were changed, and others were renamed. Now, while that's going on, as of today, 98 of these smelters have passed audits as conflict-free, and 60 more are progressing through the audit process. During Dodd-Frank's initial transition period, many companies have tried to manage the data with spreadsheets manually. Unfortunately, this is only workable for the least complex supply chains. Others have tried tools developed for other regulatory environments, such as REACH, ROSE, or GRC, or engineering requirements, like the PLMs. But these typically have inappropriate functionality to meet the specific requirements of Dodd-Frank Reporting 1502. Looking ahead, corporations will only purchase products for their bills of materials that can verify a conflict-free supply chain back to the smelters and utilize smelters that are audited conflict-free. The challenge is getting there, and quickly. With that in mind, Quantum set up the Quantum Accurate Conflict Minerals Reporting Initiative. The mission is to facilitate conflict minerals compliance that's better, faster, and cheaper for suppliers and customers. The program is structured so that everyone in the industry benefits, including Quantum. The approach embodied in QACMRI is both strategic and operational. Strategically, QACMRI partnered with Green Status Pro, which automates the CMR process and incorporates rules-based validation for 100% accuracy. Bad data is identified in moments so that the supplier can be immediately engaged and the data can be corrected at its source. This validation documents the due diligence required by Dodd-Frank. Suppliers using QACMRI tools give immediate, accurate information to Quantum and all their other customers. Operationally, QACMRI incorporates best practices for accurate reporting requirements. Suppliers send customers updates on a monthly basis to incorporate the latest CMRT information. All the issues with each supplier's CMRT is immediately identified. They are immediately identified using Green Status Pro's secure cloud-based ingester tool so that the supplier can know all their problems and take appropriate corrective action. Frequently, these issues will be driven by suppliers from remote supply tiers. QACMRI encourages the use of the Green Status Pro tools all the way to the smelters for speed, accuracy, and cost. The QACMRI process enables companies to meet the objectives and legal requirements of Dodd-Frank with a better, faster, and less expensive solution that works for the whole industry. This will result in improved relations with consumers, NGOs, the SEC, investors, and your employees. So, it's clear that capital markets value reporting conflict minerals information correctly. Accuracy is the key. A solution facilitating conflict minerals reporting that's better, faster, and cheaper is a win-win for all concerns. Quantum has spearheaded the Quantum Accurate Conflict Minerals Reporting Initiative to make this happen. Now, I'm going to turn this over to Garry to talk on this new approach for conflict minerals reporting.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining this morning. It's exciting for me to see an interest in this. I'm hoping that this will be very good for everyone involved, and I want to explain that as we go forward. So we all face reporting challenges, but the most primary challenge, of course, is those of us that are reporting to the SEC. And even if you don't report to the SEC directly, if your customers do, it pretty much involves you directly. So clearly this is something that we need to focus on. Some of the challenges are obviously managing the supplier data. We have initially tried to do this manually and very quickly saw that it became overwhelming. The spreadsheets just don't work for us. We have quite a bit of inaccurate data. That became obvious very early on. And the fact that the reporting templates are revised and change and the columns get moved around also complicates that process. We're still getting older reporting templates from some suppliers that haven't come up to the current reporting templates. Obviously, like I mentioned, reporting accurate information to the SEC is vital. You know, people have many times just simply pushed the data that they've received forward, even though it may not be accurate, and that just complicates everything because, at least on the front end, people were not paying attention to whether the right data was in the right column or whether it was even accurate to begin with. So what we need to take into consideration is who we need to report to, SEC primarily, our customers, and of course your own company's management. The accuracy, again, we keep harping on that, is critical. Ultimately, people that have to file with the SEC are going to require that all their suppliers document their chain of custody and that the smelters that they're using are CFSI compliant. We're already receiving pressure to do that, especially with tantalum and tin, and that pressure is just going to increase. So the solution that we come up with has to work for everyone. It has to work for the suppliers, their customers, suppliers of the suppliers. It has to work for everyone. So the approach is clearly three parts here. Is to keep current. We need to provide accurate and quick updates. Monthly has been something that we settled on as being a reasonable frequency. If there's a new reporting template that's released, we would hope that folks engage that and report with that within 30 days of its release. That has not been the case so far, but we're hoping to make that a reality. We need to be able to communicate with our customers and our suppliers, and we need to be able to do it quickly based on an analysis of the data. So we have to do due diligence. We have to correct problematic data, and we need a kind of a collaborative relationship with other members, which would be very helpful. So hopefully we can engage member to member and help resolve issues as they move forward. The key here with this approach is automation. being able to get an analysis of the data very quickly so you can focus on the data and not collecting the data and just trying to pass it along. It has to be accurate, it has to be secure, it has to be easy to use, and of course, we all need to be able to budget for it and afford it. So some of the automation solution requirements are consistent. Hopefully all the suppliers would use the same technology. We want to be able to provide results that are acceptable to the SEC and will ultimately help us pass our audits, which we're all likely to face. We obviously have to support the latest reporting templates, future ones that haven't come out yet, and thus far 8 previous reporting templates that we all have a mix of in our databases. It has to be accurate. There's obviously 2 parts to the reporting template. There's the declaration statement, and then there's the smelter information. And both of those parts need to be looked at and validated. We see a lot of inconsistencies with the declaration statement that should be relatively easy to correct, but sometimes people overlook things. We need to be able to use the latest conflict-free smelter program published status information. This is updated all the time, and it's important to be able to bounce our data off of the latest published smelter information. And then what we want to be able to do is provide analytics on smelter compliance. That allows you to show period over period improvement as you collect data and work with the data from your suppliers. It needs to be secure. Obviously, there's a lot of company-sensitive information there, and you want to make sure that that remains secure, and this solution ensures that. It doesn't require an IT intervention to make sure that that occurs. It's all handled for you. It's affordable and easy to use. If you look at the amount of time that would be required to have an individual or a series of individuals go through and analyze the data, this is really a very cost-effective approach. There are alternatives out there, and we'll talk a little bit more about why some of these other alternatives are not ideal. But this particular approach from Green Status Pro is designed specifically for conflict minerals. It's designed specifically to meet the SEC requirements and to help with those of you that have to file with the SEC and fill in all the boxes that need to be completed. So we've partnered with Green Status Pro because of that, because they have the solution that seems, out of all the solutions available, to work the best. So the initiative membership is something that we'd like people to become a part of. It shows, in my opinion, that you're taking the next step, that you're a leader in this area, and that you're not just kind of sitting back and waiting to see what happens and passing along bad data. It shows aggressiveness in resolving the issues that we're faced with. We would like, on a voluntary basis, to be able to reference each other as leaders in the field of conflict minerals reporting. I think it's good to do that from a company perspective, and there's a lot of folks out there that are watching corporations and how they respond to this. And social media is a big part of the response that we're seeing in regards to how companies are attacking this problem. There's no fee for the membership, although after the initial run, which we'll talk about here in a minute, there is a fee for the automation going forward, and we'll discuss that here in a minute. The benefit of joining this initiative is that Green Status Pro will evaluate your current reporting template, the one that you're passing on to your customers, and let you know how it appears to them. They'll let you know whether or not there are issues with how you've completed that template. They will run your current supplier templates through their software. It's all cloud-based. They'll provide you with an analysis and results, and they'll give you reports that are generated from their software. It's a very good really eye-opening information, and I encourage you to take advantage of that. There will be a founding members special automation price and support package. They'll discuss that with you here in a little bit. And we'll try to promote the people that have become members as taking the right actions and looking forward for conflict minerals. Your company would then have permission to display the logo you see there up on the screen and be able to publicize that you're proactively supporting this. So next steps here, we'll pass along, but eventually it's very important to recognize that this has to be pushed all the way down the supply chain. It's not just about any one of us, but it really has to be implemented all the way back to the smelter. And the pressure to use certified smelters is only going to increase. And we've really got to be able to work with accurate data and be able to go back to our suppliers and tell them what we need to have happen. So there's some contact information. The slide deck will be mailed to you. You can access this a little bit later on if you need. And I'd like to pass it on to John.
Thank you very much, Gary. I think we all agree that this initiative is the correct way for suppliers and their customers to cooperate and collaborate to meet the classic goals of better, defined as more accurate, faster, and less expensive. In the next 10 minutes, I'll provide you with an overview of how Green Status Pro provides the accuracy that is at the heart of the initiative. First, who is Green Status Pro? We're the leader in conflict mineral software service and also a thought leadership. Ingester is the only tool to transform supplier CMRTs into RCOI reports. Roadmap CM is the only tool to provide the documentation automation necessary to pass both your IPSA and your first SEC examination. If you do not have time to gain approval to acquire Ingester, no worries. Green Status Pro will run your CMRTs for you. Very important to note that to assist Quantum and Garry to fast-track this initiative, we are providing this service free, so Quantum suppliers can clean their data before re-entering it. We want that clean data in the supply chain, ASAP. And then we're a thought leader. We publish viewpoints, ebooks, and blogs to help executives better understand the issues we all face. These are all available on our website under Green Status Pro Community as we go forward. Our objective today, just to repeat it again, better, faster, cheaper, from today to going out into the future. Garry talked about the alternative approaches in a brief way. If you look at it and we work it through this, there's the environmental database solution, product lifecycle management system, and GRC system. What's the issue is we want this system to be spread across all the users, all the reporters, all the industry. You're not going to pick a GRC or a PLM system based upon its conflict minerals capability. Limited supplier industry interest, and there's really no analysis features in either of these, so that's not an acceptable way to go. Environmental databases are very popular because they've already been in place for other regulations, but they're not able to provide a specific company database, and they don't provide the analysis functions needed. What we're doing is providing a product that can be cost justified by all suppliers and customers, filers, overseas firms. We have accuracy because results are validated by technology, by software. We're secure, and we're inexpensive with a great ease of use. So what we believe is that we have the accurate, comprehensive RCOI reports conflict minerals compliance executives must have when they must have them at an affordable price. Well, that's easy to say, but let's get down to the details. How our system works is you get your supplier CMRTs, put them into a batch. We don't care which ones you get, version 2.0 through 3.02, and then you put them into the system in a batch. We read them, we put them against our rules engine, and we get declaration validation statements. Have they filled it out properly? Have they filled it out that it's a high risk? Have they filled it out where they have forgotten data that needs to be put in place? This is all important because you're dependent upon these declaration validations for your reporting going forward. So we've produced that. We're the only firm that does that goes through and validates the declarations. Then the next process is we take the CFSI's latest, greatest version of the smelter list. This is extremely important because, as Rob said, they change it so frequently. And then we take this and we run it against the smelter listings to provide the RCOI reports that I'm going to review in a few seconds. And then once we have these reports, we go and we take a look at the CFSP's conflict-free smelter list, and we provide that against the smelters that are in your supply chain. Now we have a full comprehensive system of reporting for you to be able to provide to your customers, the SEC, internal management going forward. Before I go into the reports, let's just make sure we understand it's secure, because this is very important data. This is a web-based application hosted on IBM SoftLayer with multi-layered hardware and software defenses to avoid, repel, or withstand threats. Your data is continuously replicated on backup servers. You have your own database, so your suppliers and your customers and your competitors, sometimes one company can be all three of these as we know, has no access to it. We provide SSL technology so that when data is on the fly, it's encrypted. And we do all this without any company IT support required. Very important for understanding how the environment works. So better, more accurate. Well, we're going to show each one of these reports from all reported smelters, consolidated smelters, rejected entries, smelter compliance status, RCOI analytics, aggregated declarations, and declaration statistics. What we're basically saying is you have to have all of these to do the RCOI reporting accurately and so that it can create an audit trail for the IPSA, for the SEC, for going forward. You have to have that audit trail. First, all reported smelters, we just take all the data that comes in, okay, put it in a uniform single sheet, Excel, so that you can write your own reports if you want to. We take it from columns metal through the comments, and if you have new updates, we only provide the information from the same latest information from the same supplier. It's constantly up to date. You know what you've got with your all reported smelters. But now what's really important is the consolidated smelter report. Here we only take smelters for which the suppliers have provided all the required information and are included on the standard smelter list and the latest one. Okay? This information you can rely on for documenting your Form SD to give to the SEC, and note that you'll find how many suppliers you're using the same smelter. A very important requirement for your risk management process. How dependent upon you are you on any one of these smelters around the world? Next, rejected entries. This is another important report that nobody else provides. We provide this list of smelters for which suppliers have not provided all the required information or the information is incorrect. Okay? We check it against version 302. It might not be in there going forward. But not only do we give you the name of the smelters that are rejected, we give you the reasons. I couldn't get it in here, but to the right, the contact information, so you have the ease of doing the due diligence with your suppliers to make sure you get accurate data in the future. It's not enough just to say we've got inaccurate data. We've got to also be able to have the capability to get back to our supplier so that they can correct it for us. Because after all, we want it all the way back to the smelter. And that's why we have the smelter compliance status report. Not only do we have what's compliant, we have the smelters that are in the process of becoming compliant, and we have that all listed for you. And then, of course, you know, you can do all this data. You got to get the quantification. What's your percentage of smelters that are CFSI compliant? What by metal are they? How many countries of origin did you have? What are those countries? This is all going to appear in your Form SD. We pull this out of the data immediately. And then there's the aggregated declarations report that we have. Now we've got all suppliers' responses, and we've attached the validation issues of what might be right or wrong. This is extremely important for managing supplier communications, being able to review what you can report on your declaration statement as you go forward. And finally, we have the analytics that go along with it. Everything from the number of companies that are reporting all the way down to their status, if they're subject to the SEC conflict minerals, you know, very important information. Your suppliers are going to be asking you how many companies are reporting that all the smelters were identified. That's an extremely important question. Right here, available, no extra work to do. So what have we got when we have all this? It's faster. Machine beats man anytime. Quickly can do all this. As one conflict minerals compliance manager tells us, it saves her 2 days a week by being able to do this. Faster allows us to get to monthly. We believe the goal is for monthly updates because of the number of cycles it takes to go 6 levels back in your supply chain. You got to do it. Even that level would take up to 6 months to get to the reporting level. But it's affordable. You don't sacrifice accuracy for speed as you do with manual methods. And compliance and sustainability executives can focus, as Rob said, on the high-value projects. Avoid risk for the company. Spend less time on clerical reporting. You're too well educated, too knowledgeable to spend your time on clerical reporting. Spend it where there's value can be added. And it's cheaper. Here's just a very simple cost justification worksheet. Company has 100 suppliers. It takes at least 5 hours for CMRT to do what we are able to provide. Dollars per hour for somebody that does this work is about $40. Cost per month to do this would be about $20,000. We're less than the cost of an intern. In other words, you're going to be able to cost justify our product to be able to meet the needs and requirements going forward. I have some concluding thoughts, and then we're going to get into the most important part, the questions and answers. Look, achieving 100% accuracy is the right way to meet the objectives of Dodd-Frank. Minimize times and money spent. Garry is absolutely on the right area. If we focus on this one objective, much of the overhead of management goes away. By focusing on accuracy, we're going to get the results we want to have. But we can't have it unless we do automation. Manual methods simply will not work for 100% accuracy. This approach that Garry's presenting is process with automation, and that's really important. It's not just automation, it's a process of continuous reporting, continuous updating, and the result is going to be minimizing costs, producing easily auditable reports, very important that they're auditable, as you know, and increase management confidence in our reporting system. The quantum approach benefits all the suppliers and their customers. And look, when the SEC starts examining filers after the current court cases are completed, companies who are proactive will be the best prepared for an examination because probably they are the companies the SEC won't want to examine. And when you talk to management, what management would ever allow financial accounting to occur without automation to achieve accuracy? RCI accounting also requires automation to achieve that same accuracy. Thank you very much. It's time for questions and answers. I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm looking over to the screen to read the questions that are coming in at this point in time. Let's see what we've got. Let's begin by Garry. Here's one. Why is Quantum leading this initiative? Why now? Why is it you?
Well, we focused primarily initially on getting supplier responses. In fact, we still have a few suppliers that we've been unable to get a response from, and that of course is going to require us to take a look at our approved vendor list and possibly not work with that supplier. But initially, like I said, it was all about getting the data. And now that we have the data, or a good portion of it, we really need to start focusing on whether or not the data makes sense, because our customers are going to require us, in fact do require us, to go back and fix issues that are present with our data. And it can be very time consuming and almost impossible to deal with without being able to take a step back and look at it in a controlled environment, which is what this procedure offers.
Great. Thank you very much. Rob, we've got a couple of questions the same way here. Green Status Pro, do you visit smelters? Do you verify that the real smelters are out there? How do you, at Green Status Pro, know that you're really having real smelters in there that are being reported?
Well, that's a great question. John went through this in some detail quickly, but we rely on the CMRT, which is the industry standard smelter template for the reporting and the identification of the smelters. We operate off of the most current listing of smelters, which has been produced by them, and even earlier templates, which do not operate with those, must be operated with the most current information, which is what we use. And we rely also on the audit process, which the CFSI has put together and is managing and coordinating with other associations to use a consistent procedure to make sure that the smelters that they're examining to be conflict-free are in fact, according to industry standards, usability standards, are conflict-free on it. So that's what our basis is. We do not put additional people in the field for that reason. What we want to provide is a tool that will take that information and efficiently analyze it so that it can be interpreted and reviewed, so that we won't have, so that the compliance officers and the companies can move forward as quickly as possible and produce 100% accurate information.
Yes, I think we're all in agreement that the CFSI is the authority at this point in time on what is a smelter and what isn't, and they've got as many feet on the street as possible. I mean, as you all know, the Department of Commerce was required by Dodd-Frank to go and determine what smelters were out in the world, and they basically said they could not do it. In fact, as I understand, they never even visited a smelter, correct?
Yes.
We've got a question here about would Green Status Pro evaluate the company's CMRT if they just sent it in to us and reviewed it? And, you know, for attending the conference, you win. We'll send you the contact information for all of you, and just send it to my attention, and we'll run your CMRT through Ingester and provide you with the report coming out of it. We also have a question of how will the slides be made available. We have the emails of all the attendees, and they'll all be out to you by tomorrow afternoon going forward. Hey, Gary, here's one. We're a small private company located outside the U.S. with less than 23 TG suppliers. What benefits would we really gain from joining the initiative?
Well, even with only 20 suppliers, you'll have hundreds or even conceivably up to thousands of smelter entries, depending on who your suppliers are. And because the approved smelter list changes regularly and the reporting template changes regularly, it really would be beneficial to be able to have a standard reporting system in place that looks at that data, evaluates it, and allows you to go back and work issues. So even at that level with only 20, this is still a very valuable tool to look at the data, get a synopsis of what's going on, and know where to go address the problems.
Great. Hey, Rob, here's a good question. Look, I've never seen anybody comment on lost market value due to conflict minerals reporting. Do you believe the C-suite is aware of this? If not, how would you suggest I communicate this message?
That's a great question. First off, I would be shocked if the C-suites of the 68 companies that were listed as that I talked about are unaware. The compliance officers for many of them, the ones that I've been in contact with, were in total turmoil following the June news. Well, that said, it's good to remind any organization of the supply chain risks associated with conflict minerals, which is why I reviewed this analysis and included it in here, because these are it's a tough situation in that these occurrences are irregular, but when they occur, they're devastating for the companies involved, and it's a big issue. So the companies that are involved in conflict minerals reporting need to be aware of that and need to plan accordingly. Clearly, in this case, the market value is one thing, but it's also the cost reduction which has to be brought forward. Now, I would not pretend to know the processes that all the individual companies that are here today use for approving monies to go to certain things, but those are two things that I think are essential to it. Including this as an awareness, looking at these two companies, and you will get at least the summary of the analysis. If you want more detail on the analysis, I'm happy to give you more detail. Please contact me directly.
Well, thank you very much. That concludes today. We said it would be 30 minutes, and we did the usual consulting 30 minutes of pushing it back to 40 minutes. The slides are going to go out. You have the information of how to contact all of us on these slides, and please feel free to do so. So again, thank you very much for your participation. We enjoyed it. We hope you'll find this educational. We hope you'll find it as valuable as we believe it is. Thank you very much, and goodbye.